Also, they're not generally expecting people to fight back. They're expecting that momentary freeze. They're expecting a lot of the things. And the more you can be unpredictable, the more that's difficult for them to plan their next move as well.
Today's video is sponsored by Backstreet Surveillance, Active Self-Protection's trusted source for home and business surveillance. They offer free expert system design and quotes using their Backstreet Surveillance System Design Tool to help you build the perfect system for your application. They also offer nationwide professional installation, remote smartphone monitoring, and their revolutionary 360 4K camera to help you keep track of and protect that which you love. Check them out at the link in the description and thank them for bringing us today's video.
Okay, the other part that I think can be a real challenge for women in particular is accepting that they are worthy of being protected and defended. Again, we're going to speak in generalities, but women tend to be caretakers. They tend to want to sacrifice so the other person is comfortable, so the other person is safe. This makes a lot of sense when you're talking about your kids. I mean, how many of us, men and women included, would die for our children without question? We all would. And that doesn't even make you a good parent. Like, that's the bar. Like, that's the basement, okay? I'm not saying that that makes you very special, because it doesn't. We should all be willing to do that. However, once you get out into the world, you're also worthy of being protected and defended. Okay, and sometimes we can get you to start thinking about that idea by saying, okay, so you would put someone down that was hurting your kids like immediately. You'd fight like a bear cat for that. And you wouldn't think twice about whatever level of violence that had to happen to save your kids, okay? So sometimes we can then say, okay, but what about, do your kids deserve a mom? Does your husband deserve a wife? Does your mom deserve a daughter? A sister deserve a sister? And those are good ways to start you walking towards the paths of understanding that, yes, you can fight for you as well. You can do great violence so that you can get home as well. That said, I'd prefer you to continue farther down that path and decide that you're worthy of being protected and defended because you're someone, period. Not because you're someone's mom, not because you're someone's wife. Okay, now I come to that through my particular worldview, which is a Christian worldview, that we're all made in the image of God. Therefore, we're precious, and we're of inestimable value, and worthy of being protected and defended. There are many ways to get to that same place. I'm not telling you that's how you need to get to that place. I think any of us could look around the world and say each human being something different and valuable to their world, and you're as valuable as the next person. However you have to get to that path, I think that's one of the biggest hurdles that women face in being able to say, okay, I'm going to do this. I'm going to do what I need to do, whether what I need to do is some training, what I need to do is some mindset, what I need to do is carrying a gun, whatever I need to do. I think the biggest hurdle is accepting that you're worth doing it for. You're worth troubling people. You're worth classes, if that's what you want to do. You're worth family resources to purchase a gun that you want, if that's what you want to do. And that's a hard place. So I suggest, if that's a challenge for you, sit with that for just a little bit and explore that. And I think that can not only help you from a self-defense perspective, but from a human perspective, from an emotional perspective. I think that gives us more emotionally healthy women, and that's important too. You also must radically accept and embrace who you are and what you can do in the moment. Again, there's no lamenting. If you're jogging down the road and you're, oh, I forgot my pepper spray today. This is the first time I didn't bring it. I didn't bring it. If I had it, I could do this. Okay, but you don't. So let's stop being in the past, and let's stop being in the future, and let's be in the present right now. And who are you and what can you do? Okay? I think that's primary. All right, so we're going to watch one of my favorite videos here. And this video is kind of at an outdoor section of a restaurant. You can see the street there and the tables, and that is the waitress there in the foreground. And this man is going to walk past her, and as he walks past her, you're going to see him grab her bootay, and she's going to be frustrated about it. And that's such a great video, because I think it illustrates how emotional fitness is primary. That woman's attitude, I mean, she is just mountains over him of attitude. He's bigger, he's stronger, and she just decided that day she wasn't having it. And there was not a lot he could do about it. Now, what I find interesting about that, and kind of an interesting side note, is I suspect there's a large percentage of women in this room that have had that happen to them. I specifically have, and I'm sure there's a lot of others. And generally, when you're talking to someone about that, you can just start to see the wheels turning in their head as you say, well, he walked behind me and he grabbed me. Oh, he probably hit you with the back of his hand as he was walking by. How are you sure he did that? That poor guy, or whatever. We could see that because that's on video. That's not remotely what he did. And I can guarantee you that's not remotely what happened to me. I didn't misunderstand a glance across my backside, okay? And if we didn't have video of this woman, how many people would maybe have not believed her? And this is a common thing that happens. This is common, and you can't, and now I don't know this. This is gonna be stepping out of my lane just a little bit. That cannot be the first time that happened. He can't have decided this is the day I'm gonna do this. He was too bold, he was too confident. It wasn't an issue with him for all. So how many other women didn't have it on video or didn't have the attitude like that to stop him? I guarantee he thought about it after this, and if he continued to do it, and he probably did, let's be realistic, he at least was more nervous about it. he was at least concerned that he may have to pay for some consequences for what he was about to do. So, all right, so what does emotional fitness look like? Well, we just saw a great illustration of it. That woman knew what he did was wrong, and she was okay saying, no, you're not doing that to me. You're not going to devalue me that way or objectify me that way or disregard my boundaries that way. And it didn't bother her at all to tell him that. So I think that's great, and you start by valuing yourself and realizing how valuable you are. Where do you find your value? Find it and believe in it, okay? Boundaries are another great thing, because at its core, self-defense even is boundaries, okay? And the Second Amendment is boundaries, and it gives us tools to say we get to decide what happens in our lives. Okay, and we can do that relationally. We might say, can I help out on another committee this week? No, I really can't. You know, that can be a good boundary that we have to practice in life, or it can be, no, I said you're not going to touch me, or no, you can't take my things. No, you can't take my life. I get to set that boundary, and I get to defend it. So it's all boundaries on a spectrum. And if you can practice your boundaries in other areas of life, that can help make it easier. So the first time you don't have to draw that line in the sand and defend it isn't when your life's on the line. Maybe it's when you're just saying, I can't be on the PTA this year, or I can't interact with that toxic sister-in-law now, or maybe ever. You know, drawing healthy boundaries, deciding what's healthy, finding value in yourself, drawing healthy boundaries and defending them. Practice it when it's low bar. I feel like I might be hitting some. But I really found that's when I grew in my confidence and competence, when I was able to understand where my value came from and set up what I believe are healthy boundaries and defend those and feel okay about it, even if other people don't. Even if the toxic sister-in-law does not feel great about where I've set my boundaries. If we want to have a relationship, this is what it looks like. So you practice those in low-stakes situations. And then when you get to the high-stakes situations, they're a little easier to defend. Okay, continue to know and explore who you are and cultivate that attitude of self-worth, that attitude of value, and the attitude of competence. Projecting confidence is one of the best ways you can avoid being chosen as a victim. And how do you get confidence? But by being competent and knowing that you can handle yourself, or that you've got the tools, you've got the knowledge, you've got the decisions, you've got the education, whatever you need in that moment, that you can make good decisions and you can handle yourself. You can't help but project that. As human beings, we read an incredible bit of, like minute facial expressions and movements and everything. Predators are really good at reading that. We can't help but project some of what we're feeling out in the world. And if you can project that confidence that comes from competence, that is a huge benefit in your little boundary column. You can build fences with that, okay? Find the boundary, though, between ego and foolishness, because you're no better served by defending your ego than you are by sacrificing your comfort, so that you're making other people's comfort a priority and sacrificing your own safety. So like those are both different sides of the same coin. So if you're one of those that really has to just defend your ego and have the last word and be mouthy and whatever, what you might be protecting and defending is your ego rather than your actual self as a person. And if you know that about yourself, it's just something to know so that you can mitigate that risk and understand it and figure out, okay, I don't want to do that. I don't want to be defending my ego. I want to be defending my value and my life and my worth, okay? On the other side, you don't want to be so, so demure that your feelings of comfort and safety don't matter, and so you're willing to sacrifice your security for someone else's comfort. So think of the elevator opening, and there's a man standing there, and it's late at night, you're by yourself in the parking garage. A lot of women would get on that elevator because they don't want the man to feel uncomfortable. Being okay with saying, you know what, I don't want to project to this poor guy that I'm worried that he's going to attack me or something, but it's okay for me to not feel safe, and my safety is just as important as his feelings. And the interesting part to me is I would suspect that all the good men that are in this room would not be offended when the woman didn't get on the elevator. In fact, they would very likely understand it. Jeepers, I don't know that I want to... I'm not necessarily feel like she thinks I'm going to attack her, but she's just one of those that isn't going to get on an elevator with a strange guy that she doesn't know. And so, yeah, see, there you go. So it's one of those things that we're worried about making people comfortable, sacrificing our own feelings and making their feelings more important, and not even necessarily defending actual feelings. Like that guy's feelings might not even be hurt. Who might be upset about it is the person that was maybe hoping to get someone alone on the elevator. And we don't really need to care about his feelings at all, and I don't suggest that any of you here would. But the idea that your feelings and your comfort is just as valuable as the person in the elevator.
If you're a fan of Active Self-Protection Extra, you will love the ASP Unlimited app. It is chock full of everything that you love about ASP Extra and more, including full-length, uncut, unedited classes from some of the best instructors in America, and it is also the exclusive home of the Video Active Self-Protection podcast. Hit the link in the description or download it from your favorite app store today and check it out on iOS, Android, Apple TV, Roku, Amazon Fire, or Android TV today.